Many blessings today. I'm Rabbi Danyiel, and if you've seen some of my previous messages, you know that I like to bless people. I like to see people blessed. I like people to be happy in life and be blessed. So I started this financial success and series, and I put down 4 or 5 things that could really help a person make their financial situation a lot better. So with that, the scripture that I want to read today, it's a block. It's in Leviticus. It's Leviticus 19:11 through 14. So I'm going to go ahead and read that, and then I'm going to focus on a couple things right out of that. And then I'm going to talk about taxation and what that means towards taxation. So Leviticus, starting in chapter 19, verse 11, it says, "You shall not steal. You shall not deny falsely, and you shall not lie one man with his fellow. You shall not swear falsely by my name." Okay? "Thereby desecrating the name of your God. I am Hashem. You shall not cheat your fellow, and you shall not rob. A worker's wage shall not remain with you overnight until morning. You shall not curse the deaf, and you shall not place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am Hashem." Now, what does this have to do with taxation? What does this have to do with taxation is because when you're dealing with taxation, taxation can quickly escalate into a problem. And it's escalated into a problem of slavery to a lot of people. People are bound by their tax bill. Their tax bill is so big that they don't even know what to do with that. Okay? Now, people say, well, wait a second here. How are you making a comparison between slavery and taxes? That doesn't seem correct. So my first point, there was an IRS agent, Sherry Jackson Peel, and she made this quote. And so I'm just restating the quote a little bit different in my own words. But basically, how much a percentage of a person's earnings, meaning taking the fruit of their labor by force without their consent, would it be to justify slavery? 100%, clear as day. If you're taking 100% of a person's, then you've enslaved them. You have slavery, complete slavery over them, and you're taking 100%. They are your slave, right? And we see this, and this still goes on in the world today. There's 100%, because there's sex trafficking, there's human trafficking, there's all these different trafficking, and this is another word for slavery. People don't like to use the word slavery, but slavery still exists. And there's still countries out there that participate in slavery, and it's horrible. People change the words so you don't see that it's slavery. But excessive taxation does get to a point where it is slavery. Okay? And how does this go about? This goes about with the first thing. You shall not steal. If they're taking too much from you and taking the food off your table, taking the food off the table that goes to your kids, that goes to your spouse, that goes to your family, your livelihood, they're stealing from you. Okay? So also, you shall not deny falsely. There's a lot of stuff in tax law that people are not aware of. It's not open for everybody to really understand. Tax law is extremely heavy, burdensome. You can't figure out what's in the tax law. You got to go to professionals, and even professionals don't even know half of what's in the tax law. My main job, I audit defense contracts for the Department of Defense, and I know a lot of different CPAs that work in taxes. And still, it's amazing how much knowledge they don't have as to oppose how much knowledge they do have. Of course, they have a lot of knowledge, but there is so much in the tax law, and it's extremely burdensome that they have to specialize. They have to specialize it for different things. And so there is actually tax professionals that are specializing in certain types of tax. That's crazy. That's too much. So let's talk about this. How many taxes are out there? Well, let's talk about whatever everybody sees. Well, you got the federal income tax. Now, technically, the federal income tax is really only supposed to be on federal employees and those living in a district of D.C. Now, that's a whole nother thing. You want to find out about that, go study some of what Sherry Jackson Peel said. That's a whole cluster there that I don't even want to get into because the IRS can get really nasty. So I'm not telling anybody not to pay the taxes. Pay the taxes. Learn the game. Because as far as this is a taxation, it has become a game. And it is game. And the ones that are successful in tax and understanding the taxes are the ones that are going to continue to be successful and actually have money left over. Because in some way, it's an enslavement for everybody that's in the U.S. Okay? So my advice is learn as much as you can about taxes, because there's two things. There's income tax evasion, which means it's totally illegal and you get in trouble. And there's income tax aversion, which means that it's encouraged. You learn as much about taxes so you can have as much tax write-offs as you can. Okay, so there's a method to it, and you got to learn the method. So my thing is all about education. You want to educate yourself, because the more you educate yourself, the better off you can be in this stuff. So, but let's take a look at the taxes and see how much taxes are out there, because I think people don't realize how much taxes are out there. They live their daily life, they do their daily thing, they pay their bills, they go to the store, they buy stuff. They don't realize how much taxes are out there. So let's talk about this a little bit. There's federal taxation, there's state taxation, there's county taxes, there's disability taxes, okay, meaning that you're paying from your paychecks. If you have earned income, you're paying for the possibility that what happens if you become disabled. You're paying that taxation. You might not ever have it, but it's there. It's part of the taxation. There's unemployment taxation, which actually is unemployment insurance, and it's needed. I don't disagree with some of these taxes. Some of these taxes are good and they serve a purpose. Somebody goes on unemployment, but that's supposed to be insurance, but it's treated often as a tax. And then you have, that's just the things that pop up on your you know, when you get your statement for your paycheck, right? A normal earned income paycheck, you get the statement, okay? Now, if you are, and of course, Social Security taxes are in there, which is supposed to be Social Security retirement fund, but it's a tax because it's corrupt and they take the money out of there, and there won't be enough Social Security down the road because that was really set up as like a Ponzi scheme, and that's a whole nother craze. So I don't put any trust in the fact that, yeah, I say, okay, I'll have Social Security tax later on. So I'll have Social Security when the time comes, but I don't put any faith and trust that actually being there. If it's there, it's there, great. I'm not going to plan my life on, oh, I'm going to get some Social Security when I'm in my old age. No. I'm going to make all types of plans, because the wealthy make plans. They create multiple streams of revenue because some of these streams can dry up. And when you're talking anything that has to do with legislation of the government, they can change all the rules on you without you doing anything. I mean, that's the sad part of it. And they can enslave us all. And that's what seems to happen a lot in a lot of different things. So we've got, those are things that just appear on your tax statement. Now let's talk about all the other taxes, because we also have utility taxes. And just look at your phone and you'll see a lot of the stuff on your phone bill is utility taxes for phones. You'll have water taxes that are crazy, gas taxes that are crazy, electrical taxes that are crazy. So places like, I live in San Diego, the SDG&E bills are crazy and the water bills are crazy, and they're insane taxes there. You also have property taxes. You'll have, go to the gas pump and you'll see a lot of prices. They don't advertise it so clearly for you to understand, but a lot of the price of the fuel you're paying for is taxes upon taxes. Of course, you go and you sell, certain states have higher have higher sales taxes. So you go and you buy something and you get these crazy sales taxes, like in California, it's 8.5 or something like that. It's around 8%. It's insane. You've got property taxes, of course. Okay, so it's important to understand where all the taxes are coming, so you can learn strategies to save back on some of those taxes. Okay, and so I advise everybody to learn as much as they can about taxes, to understand where all the taxes are coming from, to see if there's other things you can do. Because like if you're a disabled vet, and I'll talk about this later for disabled vet in more detail. If you're a disabled vet and you get 100% in California, you won't have to pay your property taxes up to a certain limit. Other states, that percentage varies, so you don't have to pay property taxes. But that's huge, because in many counties across the United States, if you do not pay your property taxes on your property, you run the risk of having the local county take possession of your property. And somebody can come in there and do what's called a tax lien purchase, and they can purchase the tax lien or they can purchase the tax deed. Different states do it different. And then from there, they can get your house pennies on the dollar. So it's very important to understand this. And as a vet, it's vital to understand your percentage and where you live, and see about legally following the law. All this is, there's games, I call it games because there's rules, but it's following the laws, the rules, so that you can use it to your advantage, so that you can have a better living. You have a better life. Some states are better for certain situations and scenarios. It might be better to move to Texas, or it might be better to move to Florida, or it might be better to move to Arizona. And some of these places, this is why a lot of people retire and they move different places, because when they move to another state, they're able to have a better life with the money they're still able to keep. A lot of government thinks it's the role of the government, that everything is theirs and they own it and they're just giving you some of it back. And other people believe that, no, I worked hard my whole entire life. This is for me to enjoy and for me to pass on to my kids, my progeny, my grandkids, etc. And I'm upon that feeling that, when you work for something, it's yours, and you should have the right to pass it on to your children and to your family, and to use this to serve your family, use this to serve God. Okay, so with that, taxation, people don't understand how heavy this taxation gets. So if you work for somebody else and you get a W-2 or even a 1099, you're kind of a sole proprietor, but you're not quite there with a small business. You're taxed differently than if you own a big business, or which is like 500 or more people working for you, or you're an investor. Okay, so the highest level is the small business. So the highest level of taxation falls upon the sole proprietor, that 1099 guy, and the small little businesses. That's where the highest taxation falls. Okay, the second highest falls upon the individual earned income worker. Now, if you're working below 50,000, then you're probably not going to feel it so much. If you're just barely above the standard deduction, you're not going to feel it at all. I mean, you don't even have to file income tax if you get standard deduction, unless you want to get other benefits that the government's offering. Because a lot of taxes really is redistribution of wealth.